Hello, 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 hello. Hopefully you can see and hear me. My name is Ben Shires. Hello, greetings, and welcome once again to the second of our National Literacy Trust live events, part of the Premier League Primary Stars takeover of the National Literacy Trust Family Zone. Yet we enjoyed it so much last time, we're back again with even more literary larks and reading razzmatazz. I'm your host, TV presenter, and unrepentant Leeds United fan, Ben Shires, and I'm delighted to be joined by our awesome author of the week to discuss reading, writing, and a whole lot more besides. This week, we welcome the terrifically and tremendously talented Tom Palmer, author of oodles of books, including the fantastic Football Academy series and the iconic Roy of the Rovers as well. Not only is Tom a rad writer, but he's also a fellow Leeds fan, so he's already a hero in my eyes. Hello, Tom. It's great to see you.
Hi, thanks for having me on, Ben.
Fantastic. We'll be joining Tom very shortly. Before that, though, let me just say, like many of you at the moment, I'm at home today, broadcasting from my house in York, and I'd love to find out where you're watching from. So why not pop us a comment in the feed below with your name, your age, where you're from, and what you're enjoying about the show. That's all we need to know, and we'll do our very best to give you a shout out. And that's not the only way you can get involved. Tom will also be answering your questions at the end of the show, so make sure you send us those too. Just pop them in the comments. And I needn't remind you that all questions about Leeds United will be given preferential treatment. Marching on together. And before we crack on, there's one very exciting last thing to flag up. A little bit later, we'll be announcing an amazing and exclusive prize that one lucky person will receive just for taking part in our challenge. So make sure you stick around till the end for that. Well, there's all that and loads more coming up. But right now, it's time to crack on with the show. Tom, it is so good to see you. We've got tons to chat about today. Before we go any further, though, the question on everyone's lips right now, are Leeds going to get promoted to the Premier League? I mean, it was a great result yesterday.
It was a great result yesterday, and we're 4 points short, and I think we probably will, but I'm not going to celebrate until it actually happens, but I hope so.
It's the hope that kills you, isn't it? But keep that belief, Tom. We're all right behind Leeds. And I know you're watching at home and maybe thinking, I'm not a Leeds fan. Well, our aim is to convert you by the end of this and also to get you into reading as well. So with that thought in mind, let's get back on topic and hit the ground running with an audience challenge. Now, this is something new. We didn't do one of these last time, so I'm really excited to tell you all about it. In fact, I'm so excited that I'm going to actually join in with the challenge too. So, Tom, can you tell us what we're going to be doing?
Yes, we're going to be playing the football reading game, and the football reading game is a quiz to do with football, but it's about different things that you can read about football. So there'll be a newspaper, a magazine, a website, a non-fiction, and a fiction question, which I'm going to be asking based on today's newspapers, websites, and recent magazines.
Oh, it does sound exciting, doesn't it? So just to recap, there's going to be 5 questions in total, and we want you to let us know your answers in the comments after each question. So Tom will give you that question. You answer in the comments, and we might be reading out your answer as we go along. Remember, you can also play along at home too with a family member or a friend. And I, as I mentioned previously, I'm going to be giving it a go as well. So right then, if we're all ready, if you're all set, then let's crack on with our first quizzy. And Tom, this one comes from a newspaper, I believe.
It does, yes. And before I ask it, Ben, I'd like to ask you: do you like newspapers? Do you have a favourite bit you like to read in newspapers?
Well, yeah, thanks for asking, Tom. I certainly do read newspapers now. I read them both in print form that I can hold in my hands and online. I find them really interesting, and they give you often a very balanced and very considered opinion. And I loved reading the sports pages of the newspaper when I was growing up as well. My dad used to get a couple of different newspapers. It was the Yorkshire Evening Post and the Telegraph. And I always used to read the sports section of that. I didn't always read the rest of the paper, but I was always looking out for a little mention, particularly of Leeds United.
Me too. And for me, newspapers were really important because I struggled with reading books, and newspapers, it's quite short, and that helps me get into reading. Right, question 1. And you'll see on your screen a newspaper from this weekend. It's the Sunday Telegraph. On the cover, there is a picture of Jack Charlton, who was an England footballer who played in the World Cup final in 1966, who very sadly died over the weekend at the age of 85. And my question is, we know he played for England, but which football club did he play for?
Oh, fantastic. Okay, so Jack Charlton, who you may have seen in the news, as Tom said, very sadly died this weekend. He had a fantastic career at all sorts of different levels, World Cup winner, played football for many, many years, managed football clubs as well, famously took Ireland quite far in the World Cup. But which one football team did he play for? If you know the answer to that, then let us know in the comments. And I'm just thinking about Jack Charlton, and I remember some of the areas that he was associated with. So he was from the sort of the Newcastle area. So maybe he played for them, and he managed some teams. He managed Middlesbrough, maybe he played for them. Managed Ireland as well on the international stage. So maybe he played at a club in Ireland. What do you think? If you've got an answer to this question, let us know now, and we will we'll read out a couple of answers. Just waiting for a couple of them. In the meantime, I know that Jack Charlton actually played his club football at just one club, over 700 matches for one club, which is an incredible amount of commitment to any job, isn't it? Fantastic to see someone really give it all for the cause. And we've got lots of people here apparently saying Leeds. Someone said a team that wears white, but the name escapes us. Okay, all right, I'm going to call it there. I know the answer to this one, and I am a big fan of this club, as is Tom. Tom, can you reveal the answer? Because I think it's Leeds United.
The correct answer is, it is a team that wears white, and it is Leeds United. Well done, everyone.
Fantastic. Well done if you got that one right. Yes, as we said, Jack Charlton played for his club over 700 times, won everything that there was to win with Leeds United, and of course, won the World Cup too, and he'll be very sadly missed. And just to finish off talking about newspapers, Tom, why do you think it's important that we read newspapers?
For me, I like a newspaper because it's lots of, there's loads in a newspaper, but a newspaper, you can choose what you want to read. Like you might want to read the Leeds match report this morning, but you might not want to read a match report about Norwich or something like that. So you can choose your own clubs and your own things that you want to read, and it's quite short things. So if you struggle with reading, like I certainly did when I was young, it's a good way of getting into reading a newspaper.
Fantastic. I've just seen as well that St Albans Primary said Leeds United. Well done for getting that right. Someone said Manchester United. Absolutely not. But you might be thinking of Jack's brother, Bobby Charlton, who famously played for Manchester United. Right, Tom, the next question is about a magazine.
It is. It's a magazine question. And magazines are really important to me as a reader as well. Do you have a favourite magazine, Ben?
I love football magazines. When I was growing up, I subscribed to 3 different football magazines, Shoot, Match, and the Leeds United magazine, and I loved them. I loved learning about my team, but also different teams, reading about players, getting those sort of little insider bits of information. So I always thought they were really exciting.
Excellent. So we're going to show you the cover now of this week's Match of the Day magazine. And you'll see a picture there. Obviously, it's celebrating Liverpool becoming Premier League champions. And there's a picture there of Jurgen Klopp, the Liverpool manager. And my question is, for the magazine question, which football club did Jurgen Klopp leave to become manager of Liverpool?
Okay, so do you know the answer to that? Which club did Jurgen Klopp manage before he managed Liverpool? Now, I guess we can start to think about Jurgen Klopp and try and figure out the answer if you don't know it immediately. Now, you may know that Jurgen Klopp is German, so maybe he managed a club in Germany. And maybe you think, well, he's a successful manager, so maybe he managed a successful team in Germany. And who is a successful team in Germany? Now, I think lots of us would know Bayern Munich. Would it be Bayern Munich? Or would it be another team maybe? I don't remember him managing Bayern Munich. Who else would he have managed? Now, I seem to remember that he did have a lot of success over there in Germany. We've got Alkenbury Primary. They're saying Borussia Dortmund. That rings a bell. Do we have anyone else with any answers? Because I seem to think that there could be something in that answer. Does anyone think it's Borussia Dortmund? Does anyone think it's anything different? Amanda, Carly and Alison also say Dortmund. So we've got a couple for Dortmund there. Just to recap once more, we're looking for the team that Jurgen Klopp managed before he moved to Liverpool and enjoyed all that success, winning the Champions League, winning the Premier League, the World Club Cup, amongst other things as well. Dan and Ashley say Borussia Dortmund. So it looks like we've got a lot of people there, Tom, saying Borussia Dortmund. And I've got to say that I visited Borussia Dortmund last year and we filmed a little piece on them. And Jurgen Klopp is very much still a hero there. So I'm going to say Borussia Dortmund too. Are we correct?
You are correct again. Well done. It is Borussia Dortmund.
Fantastic. And well done if you got that right. Tom, magazines are something that many of us will have read. What is it, do you think, that makes them stand out?
For me, like your magazine is about your hobby, it's about your interest. And I loved, when I was younger, I used to get Shoot, which was a football magazine, delivered through my door. And it felt really special to me that was my magazine and I looked forward to it. And I wasn't a big reader, but I was excited that I could go and choose or have delivered a magazine which meant something to me. So I think magazines can be really personal.
I think you're absolutely right. And now we're going to move on to a website. Obviously, many of us will have visited websites at various times and maybe not even realise that we're reading or taking in information.
Yes, absolutely. So this question, I'm going to ask you a question about a website now. And so if we put that up on the screen, if we see what we've got, this is the Premier League website. This is a story from this weekend. And you can see there, we've put some question marks over the name of a footballer. And so the headline is, someone, hat-trick seals convincing Man City victory. And we want to know who was the footballer who scored a hat-trick for Man City in their demolition of Brighton this weekend.
Absolutely. So Man City beat Brighton 5-0. And we know that someone scored a hat-trick from that headline, but who was it? Now, there's a clue, I suppose, from the website in that we can see a picture of a footballer there. And I know that footballer is Raheem Sterling, but sometimes headlines don't match the pictures, do they? So we've got to be a little bit careful. And that's why it's important to read the full article as well, isn't it, Tom?
It is, absolutely. And to look at all the clues there.
Absolutely. So let's see what our viewers are thinking. Who do they think from the Man City team might have scored that hat-trick against Brighton this weekend? They've got so many incredible strikers in there and midfielders who can score goals as well. I mean, you've got Sergio Aguero, Gabriel Jesus, Kevin De Bruyne has been scoring lots this season. David Silva can always be relied on to chip in with a goal. And even Riyad Mahrez has scored quite a few when he's been in the team to play. Obviously, they've got so many great players at Man City that not everyone gets to start every game. But we have that picture of Raheem Sterling there. We know that he's had a patchy season in terms of goal scoring, but did he turn it around on the weekend match against Brighton and score a hat-trick? Let's see what you're saying, tuning in. We got Alconbury again, primary, saying Sterling. The Hull Massive say it's Raheem Sterling. Sumra says it's Sterling. So we're getting a lot of support, a lot of answers for Raheem Sterling here. Tom, can you reveal who it is? Because I watched that match and I think it was also Raheem Sterling who scored 3, including a really fluky one that bounced in off his head.
Once again, you're right, Ben. It was Raheem Sterling. Well done.
Fantastic. And websites are something that I'm guessing the majority of us will have used. And they can be such great sources of information and entertainment, can't they?
They are, and I love the fact about online, like once your football team's match is finished, you can read match reports, but you can read 10 different match reports from different websites, where maybe a newspaper or a football club's website. And I love reading the match reports and seeing what they made of the game and if they all agree. And I sometimes don't read them all when my team has lost, but I certainly do when we've won.
Yeah, it's not always fun reading the picking apart of a bad loss, is it? But it's always good to see other people's opinions as well. Well, we're moving on now to non-fiction.
Yes.
So what have we got for this?
Right, so non-fiction. I when I started reading, I struggled with reading fiction because I kind of liked truth. I liked real things, and I didn't think fiction was for me. Obviously, that's changed for me now. But so I would read non-fiction books. So, for instance, I might read a book like this, which has been doing quite well in Yorkshire recently. And my question for you, I'm going to show you a biography of a footballer. This is the best biography I've read of a footballer for a long time. It's called They Don't Teach This, and it's by eniola. I'd like to know, she's a footballer, and I'd like to know which country she played football for. So that's question number 4.
Okay, so who did Eniola Luka represent? You might know this, you might not. If you do, let us know. Give us your answer in the comments. If you don't, have a guess. What I will say is that Eniola Luka, you might have seen her playing football. You might have seen her commenting on football as a pundit. She's been on the telly a lot in recent years talking about football. She gives really insightful and well-reasoned analysis. And I think it's fair to say as well that she wasn't always kind of particularly treated in the best way by her country, and she's spoken about that as well. So you might have heard her talking about how she wished she'd have been treated a bit differently by the country that she played for. But do you know which country that was? Maybe you've read the book. I mean, Tom's been saying to me, I've got to read this book because it's so good, and I'm definitely going to do that when I get the chance. So maybe you've read the book. The question we want you to answer is, who did Eniola Luka represent at international level? Which team did she play for nationally? If you know, let us know by putting your answer in the comments below, and we'll give you a little shout out and find out who you think it could be. She also had a brother, of course, that played professional football as well, Sonny Aluko. I remember him playing for Hull, amongst other teams. So who did Eniola Luka represent on the national stage? If you know, let us know right now, and I'll read out some of the answers. Just waiting for some answers, actually. So let us know fairly quickly, because we've got to move on to the next question if you've got an answer. If not, I'll give you mine, and then we'll move on. Okay, Tom, it doesn't look like we've got any answers for this coming through right now. It could be an internet connection issue as well. We are relying on our team behind the scenes to feed the answers through to us. So in that case, I'm going to say Eniola Luka played for England. I watched her play a few matches, and I've certainly heard her talk about her time in the England setup. So am I correct?
Yes, you've still got your 100% record, Ben. It is England. And then if that book is a really good book, and she writes about being a young player and how she got into football teams. And when I was writing the Rovers books with Rakhi as my main female character, reading books like that by Eniola Luka and others have really helped me develop my character to make it authentic.
Amazing. Well, we'll be talking a little bit more about that later on. But right now, let's get the last part of our quiz, and this is the fiction side of things. So what have we got in terms of fiction?
So I'm going to show you now the cover of a famous, a well-known football novel, when that comes up. And I've blacked out a word on the cover of that book, and it's by Dan Friedman, the book, and it's called Final Something, and I've blacked out a word, and I want to know what that missing word is. That we put those questions over. So final what?
Okay, so maybe you've read this book by Dan Friedman. He was the author, of course, who we welcomed on the last time we were here. And he's written this book. You can see the cover right there. And we've covered the one word up with some question marks. Maybe you know what that word is already, or maybe you could have a guess. Now, we know that Jamie Johnson is the football series. So is it a word that relates to football? It looks to me like it starts with the letter W. So what word comes after final, often when you're talking about football, that begins with W and could make sense for the title of this book? If you know, or if you want to have a guess, then give us your answer right now. And I'll see what we've got. Just to recap on question 4, when we were asking about eniola, we did have some answers in. Apologies that I didn't have them at the time. Nick said it was England. He also said that a brother wasn't bad for Hull City either. Thank you, Nick. Friday Bridge Primary School says England or Nigeria. Well, it was England. St Albans Primary says England, and Katie, Laura and Abby also say England. Great work if you got that correct. Now we're just looking for the answer to this last question, which is, do you know what word we have covered up on the front cover of this Dan Friedman book? It's final something. It's a word that begins, we think, with W from what we can see on the front cover there. Could it be final water break, like they've been having in the football since they've restarted? Or is it final walk off the pitch? Could it be that? What do you think? Let us know, and we'll see if we've got any answers. Friday Bridge Primary School will come straight in with final whistle. Fantastic. I think that would be my guess as well. Alconbury Primary have also said whistle. So we've got a few answers that are saying whistle here, Tom. I would also guess final whistle. And I think I've heard Dan talking about this book as well. So is whistle correct?
Whistle is correct. Well done. Well done, everyone out there.
Fantastic. And what is it that you think is really important about fiction books?
I suppose I like fiction because it puts me in the position of another person. It could be a footballer, it could be a soldier in history, or it could be someone else. And that I really like that, because it makes me think about other people's lives and the world from other people's points of view. And for me, that's what fiction does a lot, really. I think it makes you understand people better and be kinder to them, really. I think fiction does do that for me.
Absolutely. And I love fiction as well for the escapism and the fact that it allows you to go on adventures without even leaving your chair. I think it's brilliant. We'll be talking more about fiction later. But for now, I really hope you enjoyed playing along at home. Well done if you got any or all of those questions correct. Great work. And thank you for everyone who wrote in the comments too and answered. And speaking of the comments, let's take a look at who's been in touch so far. We've got Ben from Monty. Is it Ben from Monty or Ben and Monty? 9 in Debenham in Suffolk. The Year 2 Bubble watching in class in Peterborough. Hello from Alice in Hull, who's 9. And Alice says, we think Hull City are Yorkshire's best team, not Leeds United. Well, that is your opinion. It can't be wrong, Alice, but the league table would suggest otherwise. Anik and Fan in Yorkshire. Year 4 and 5 watching from Alconbury School in Cambridgeshire, who's got very involved with the quiz. Thank you for that. Katie and Willoughby in East Yorkshire. Anik and Fan from St Bart's as well. Oh, I think we might have had them twice. And Paul Owens, who says, great that female players are now getting lots of exposure. Some top girls and women players. Well, we'll be talking about a fictional women's player soon in the shape of Rakhi from the Roy the Rover series. But before that, Tom, thank you firstly for that quiz. It was brilliant. And I know that you sort of mentioned when we were talking there that you weren't really much of a fan of reading when you were growing up. So what inspired you to get into reading and to pick up a book?
Football. It was my mum. I struggled with reading. I struggled at school, but my mum knew that I was struggling, and so she used football. She used my love of Leeds United to read in newspapers and magazines and books, and that's I suppose where this quiz comes from. Really, you can get into reading through your hobby, and I read longer and longer things in newspapers and magazines, and then non-fiction books, and gradually built up my reading stamina to become a stronger reader. And it's down to my mum that, and it was really important that she did that. And that's what I try to do as a writer and when I'm in schools. I'm trying to encourage reading for pleasure through people's passions.
Fantastic. Yeah, and you're absolutely doing that as well. And I guess when you're talking about enjoying reading and how you came into that's something that maybe a few of us can relate to, and maybe we have picked up a book or a magazine or a newspaper and really got into it, but it's a completely separate thing to start writing your own stuff too. So how did you become the hugely successful author that you are today?
In a similar way, really. I started with small things. I wanted to be a writer. I looked up to writers and I wanted to be like them. So I would write poems, short stories, little match reports, letters to people, and gradually built up my writing stamina as well. But the main thing for me was confidence. You need to write a book, to write a story even, you need confidence. So I wasn't confident writing, but I was confident talking about football. And so I drew the confidence from the subject, and that gave me the sort of scaffolding to actually be able to become a writer, I think.
Well, it's great that you found that confidence and you found that inner voice. It's really, really important. And we've all got that. It's just about unlocking the potential. But did you ever worry, I suppose, that because you came from the north of England and you maybe didn't go to a posh school, or you didn't feel like you were part of the kind of the circle of people who traditionally write books, that you might struggle to become a successful writer yourself?
I did. I had a crazy idea that to be a writer, you had to be from London and posh and really clever and all these things that I didn't feel that I was. And until I read books like Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte, A Kestrel for a Knave by Barry Hines, books like that, which made me realise that you can be from the north to write books and or to write anything. And that really made me believe that, because you have ideas about, I can't do this, I can't do this, but actually you can. If you want to be a writer, it doesn't matter where you're from and who you are, if you really want to do it, you can become a writer.
Absolutely. And it's not just writing as well. It's anything, any aspiration, any dream that you have, where you're from, who you go to school with, anything like that should not be a barrier. The only thing that can hold you back ultimately is yourself, is that personal self-belief and that self-value. If you know that you want to achieve something, you can do it. You just got to put your mind to it and really focus and work hard at it. They're the things that allow people to be successful, not which postcode you were born in or how big your house is, certainly not. So they're really, really important things to remember. Yes. And I guess the other thing that we've got to focus on now that we're speaking to you, Tom, is what makes up your background, because we talk about you being a successful writer, but we can see directly behind you some of your very popular characters. You've worked and written for Roy of the Rovers, which is a massively successful. I've got my little terrier down here at the bottom, Olive, who's getting excited hearing about Roy of the Rovers too. And I'm sure she would love to hear about the character of Rakhi, who has become just as important as Roy in the Roy of the Rovers series as a young, aspiring female footballer.
Absolutely. And when I asked, so Roy of the Rovers, I was approached by Rebellion, the publisher, to write fiction about Roy of the Rovers. And Rob Williams writes the graphic novels, the comic books about Roy of the Rovers. And we started off with Roy, and we gave him a family situation with his dad, who's not very well, and his mum, who works really hard, and a sister, sort of quite a sort of a full of character sister. And we very quickly, she became like a really important part of the story. And we realised she was asking to be more part of the series. So now it's really Roy and Rakhi of the Rovers. In fact, the next book, which has been delayed unfortunately, but it's coming out in October. This is the cover of it, and you can see it's all about Rakhi. And if you can see on the title, the word on the cover, the word Roy is going to be crossed out, and Rakhi. So she's going to be the main character in the next book, and from now on it's going to go Roy, Rakhi, and she's really asserted herself to be one of the main characters, and that for me is wonderful, because I know like football is really important to boys and girls. I'm pretty sure Alice and Nick, who are in Hull, who are joining in, I know they're a family who take football really important, and so I think of readers like that, and my own daughter when I'm writing this character.
Absolutely, and like you say, the importance of women's football continues to grow as people become more aware of it, that they can see it more easily on TV, they can go to games, the players become better known, and it's fantastic to see, not just in real life, but in fiction as well, because you need those heroes to aspire to, who can do the things that maybe wouldn't be possible in real life. So we've got a fantastic hero there in Rakhi, and I'm sure that she's going to go on to have loads of adventures going forward as well. So I can't wait to see how she ends up. And in the meantime, got Olive getting very excited down at my feet. And I'm sure she wants to hear some of the shout-outs and comments that have come in from our viewers. Now, we will be taking your questions for Tom very shortly. But before that, let's just say a quick hello to some of these folks. So we've got Amanda, who is doing the quiz from Leeds. She says Leeds are the best. Really hope they get promoted. Great work to you, Amanda. Sylvie, Mabel, Granny and Grandad from Herefordshire are all involved. Eddie and Amelia. The Bubble at Wagstaff at Park Hall Academy are enjoying watching. Monty in Debenham. Paul Owens, who says he's been sharing these free resources with his 9-year-old daughter's 2 teams and hope to use them with his pupils in a reluctant writers group from next year. Well, that is fantastic. Thank you so much to everyone who's watching, and make sure to get your questions coming in for Tom soon. We've already had a few. You've got a couple more minutes to put yours in the comments. And whilst you do that, Tom, I would like to ask you another question, if I may, and that is, can you give us your top tips on how to choose the right thing to read for you, whether that be a book or a magazine or a website or whatever it could be?
Yeah, I definitely, that's a really good starting point, is the fact that you don't have to read a novel or you don't have to read a book. You can read newspapers and magazines. Any reading is reading. And once you get that, you don't have to worry about reading big, thick, sort of quite frightening because of the size of them books, I suppose. So that's really important. But I would say start with your passion. Mine was football. It could be history. It could be anything. It could be airplanes. It could be anything that you're interested in. Start with that. And then my main thing would be go to the library, your school library, your public library. If you go to the library or a bookshop, you can find the books that you want there, and you can speak to a librarian. Librarians are trained, and they make sure they know everything about all the books in their library. So if you go in and say, I'm really interested in hats, for instance, they would find you a book about hats. Whatever you're interested in, librarians and libraries can help you. And it's very true that you can experiment in libraries, because if you don't like a book, it means that you haven't spent $6.99 on it and you don't feel obliged to read it. You can try 2 or 3 different books and give up if you're not enjoying it, and try another. Yeah,
absolutely. That's a great bit of advice. Well, thank you for answering all my questions, Tom. It's been absolutely fantastic. Now we're going to come to some questions from people who are watching. So let's see what you want to know. Firstly, we've got Lucy from Nottingham. She's 12, and she asks, which character from your books do you most identify with?
That's a really good question. Thank you, Lucy. I suppose it is in Armistice Runner, which is my book about a girl who's a fell runner. So she's like a mountain, a cross-country runner. And she goes to lots of races with her dad. And it's based quite a bit on me taking my daughter to fell races. So the dad is kind of based a lot on me. So and I love this book. It's my favourite book I've written, because it's about what my daughter and I like to do together. So that I'd definitely say the dad from Armistice Runner.
Oh, lovely. Well, Shafiq, who is 9 from London, says, who is your favourite football player?
Shafiq, thank you for that question. It's currently Calvin Phillips, who is a Leeds United player, is my favourite football player. But my favourite footballer ever is either Gordon Strachan or Lucas Radebe. I can never quite make my mind up, but they're both captained Leeds.
Yeah. I was going to say, for those in any doubt, it's always going to be a Leeds player. Next is Farah from Herefordshire, who's 11. And she says, Tom, what is your top tip if you're stuck with your writing?
Good question, Farah. If you're stuck with your writing, well, if I'm stuck, I stop and I have a rest to get away from it, because it can be quite intense, sort of struggling with something. And then when I'm writing a book, if it's not working, I always make a plan at the beginning, but if I'm stuck in the middle, I'll make another plan. I'll redo my plan and just sort of rework it all and move things about a bit. I think for me, a bit of a rest and then some more planning is a way of smoothing out those problems.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great advice. And I think always when you come back to stuff afterwards, it really helps you look at it with fresh eyes as well, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
James from Cambridge says, how do you think of characters' names?
Good question, James. I suppose that's, yeah. I go around a lot of schools and I meet a lot of children. So, for instance, in this series, which is like a ghost football series, there's a boy called Seth White, and I met a boy whose name was Seth White in a school, and I just said, "Can I have your name?" Because I really like your name. And then there's a girl in it as well called Nadia, and she's called Nadia because that when I was writing it, a lady called Nadia from Leeds won Bake Off. Won the Great British Bake Off. So I'll grab names from here, there, and everywhere, and often I'll put friends in if I want to sort of make them feel good by putting them in as a character. And occasionally I'll put someone in from my past who I portray as a villain, but let's not yet.
So the message is, don't upset you, otherwise you might come in as a baddie.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of baddies, Olive has gone very bitey all of a sudden. I think she's getting excited about some of these questions. Bubble Wagstaff, who I think must be a school bubble, or could be someone called Bubble. We've had a lot of school bubbles in, so it could be either. They've said, what team do you support? I think we know the answer, Tom, but you just want to remind us?
I support Leeds United.
Good man. Let's have another question. Amanda says, how did you get the idea for Roy of the Rovers? Which I'm guessing it wasn't your idea to begin with, was it?
No, I was so Rebellion, the publishers, they wanted to republish Roy of the Rovers and make it into the 21st century as a story. So they approached me. I was really lucky. Normally I have to write a book and send it to a publisher and they'll say we like it or we don't like it. But in this case, they approached me and they said, would you like to write the Roy of the Rovers fiction? Which was wonderful. And so it's kind of like on a plate for me. And I was thrilled because one of the comics I did used to read when I was young was Roy of the Rovers.
That's amazing. So what a thrill to actually be able to write it yourself. We got time for a few more questions. This next one comes from Ben. Great name, Ben. Ben asks, what age did you start writing?
Good question, Ben. I started writing as a hobby when I was about 18 roughly. But I didn't get published with my first book until I was 40. So it took me more than 20 years to go from starting to write, to enjoy writing, to actually getting published. And that's often what I say when I visit schools is if you really want to do something and be something, don't give up. 20 years is a long time, but now I've got the most satisfying job I could have in the world because I kept going and kept trying. So persevere. I'm sure a lot of schools, the word perseverance is a really big deal, and I absolutely approve that.
Absolutely. And it's amazing to think as well that you didn't even start writing properly until you were 18. Yeah. You might think that you have to be doing something from when you were very young to be really good at it, but you've proven that, you just need to get started at some point.
Yeah.
Amazing. We've got a few more questions here. So let's do this. Lewis, who's 10 from Birmingham, says, why did you decide to make Rakhi a main character?
Two reasons. One, it had to happen because it's really important that we write this series with girls and boys as the main characters in it. It's because girls and boys play football, so I need to write about girls and boys playing football. But the other reason is I don't normally in my books I make up the characters and I tell them what to do, but I swear she says what's going to happen and what she wants to do, and it's never happened to me before with a character, but she is in control and she is telling me that she's asserting herself in these books, and I love it. And we just let her roll, and she delivers.
Amazing. So characters speak to you as well, which is incredible. And we've got one here from Penny from Hull, who says, what did it feel like to get published for the first time?
Thank you, Penny from Hull. What did it feel like? It felt amazing. It was something I really, really wanted to happen. I wanted to be an author. I wanted to have a book with my name on the cover. And I tried and tried and tried. And when it eventually happened, it was really moving, and I cried. I was really, really thrilled and emotional about it. But I also felt like it was worth it. It was worth I'd had written a lot of books which had been rejected because they weren't good enough, and I needed to improve and get better. But it was worth persevering and keeping going to get my first book published, because that was right up there. That was right up there with 1992, at least when I
Amazing. Well, I think we'll end on this one, Tom, because we had some brilliant questions here and we could keep going for ages. But I'm sure you will often get asked this. Cameron from Bradford has said, what is your favourite book?
My favourite children's books are either ones by Anthony Horowitz or Rosemary Sutcliffe. But my favourite ever book is not very far from where you are in Bradford, actually. It's Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte, and that's about 7 or 8 miles outside the centre of Bradford, and it's set on the moors in Yorkshire, and I just love it because it was the book that made me believe I could be a writer.
Fantastic. Well, that is amazing. Thank you so much for all of your brilliant questions there. And Tom, thank you so much for answering them as well. It's been an absolute joy. And don't go anywhere, because we do still have a few more things to talk about whilst I wrestle my puppy, who's decided that now is the perfect time to bite my fingers off. So remember, you can grab your free copy of the first 2 titles in the Roy of the Rovers series over on the Family Zone website. It's literacytrust.org.uk/Family Zone. Details will be available at the end and in the comments below. Tom, I also know that there is an incredible challenge that you launched recently. There's a special prize that we're going to talk about too, but can you just tell us what the challenge is first?
Yes, so up on your screen, you'll see a Roy of the Rovers comic strip, and you'll also notice that we've removed the words, and we've put 2 of these up on the challenge where you are challenged to write the words and put the dialogue in to tell your own Roy of the Rovers story. And one of them's words like a conversation, and one of them is a commentary on a football match. And we challenge you just to fill in those few words in the boxes on the comic and see if you can make up a really good story.
Amazing. I'm also very excited to tell you, as Olive is very excited too, that one lucky person who completes Tom's Premier League Primary Stars Speech Challenge will also win a Premier League trophy visit to their school when it's safe to do so. You just need to complete the challenge and share it with the Premier League Primary Stars team. You can take a look at the National Literacy Trust Family Zone or plprimarystars.com for how to do that. And the Premier League Primary Stars team will be in touch with the lucky winner. And our last winner from the last episode that we had, Sophia from Leicester, will be getting a visit to her school with the trophy as soon as it's possible to do so. Tom, I know you've seen the trophy in person before. Can you tell us what it's like?
It's just amazing when you actually see the trophy that you've seen on the television or pictures. It is an amazing thing, and sometimes you're allowed to hold it, sometimes not, and I suppose it's an icon. It's a thing that you didn't think you'd actually see in person. It feels great. So good luck to all of you, and well done to Leicester, where the trophy will be returning.
Absolutely amazing. And one more thing before we say goodbye. Don't forget, this Thursday, the 16th of July, is Reading Together Today. And we've got an ambassador online with us already. Tom, it's you. What can you tell us about what's happening on Thursday?
The Reading Together Day is a really important day where we can celebrate reading together. And for me, it was really important. If my mum, as I said earlier, didn't read with me the football match reports and other such things, I would never have become a reader. I would never become a writer, and I wouldn't be as happy as I feel that I am now. But also as a parent, I read a lot with my daughter, and I think if you can read together, it's a great thing. And so the whole day will be about celebrating how you can read together and what the benefits of that are.
Fantastic. Well, that's this Thursday, the 16th of July. There's more details on the Family Zone webpage, and let's make sure that we can get everyone reading. Well, that is it for today. Thank you to Tom, of course. Tom, you've been amazing. Thank you to the Premier League, the National Literacy Trust, Rebellion Publishers, and to Olive for her very bitey cameo. Please do look out for more challenges and fun activities on the National Literacy Trust Family Zone website, as well as the Premier League Primary Stars website. And do make sure that you give that challenge a go. Maybe you could be winning a trophy visit to your school. But in the meantime, make sure you have fun, and bye for now. See ya.
Thank you. Thanks, Ben.